My name is Clara, and I discovered magic exists the day I inherited my grandmother's bookshop. Nana Rose had always been eccentric. She claimed her books chose their readers, not the other way around. I thought it was just her way of making the dusty old shop on Maple Street sound more interesting. After she passed, I reluctantly took over, planning to sell it as soon as possible. The first strange thing happened on my second day. A young man wandered in, looking lost. He had paint under his fingernails and worry lines around his eyes. "I'm looking for something," he said, "but I'm not sure what." I was about to direct him to the bestseller section when something made me pause. Without thinking, I walked to the back corner where Nana kept her oldest books. My hand reached for a slim volume I'd never noticed before. The Artist's Heart, by someone I'd never heard of. "Try this," I said, handing it to him. His face lit up as he read the first page. "This is exactly what I needed. How did you know?" I had no idea how I knew, but something inside me had guided me to that exact book. Over the following weeks, it kept happening. A teenage girl dealing with her parents' divorce found a book about healing family relationships. An elderly widower discovered a cookbook that made him smile for the first time in months. An anxious college student left with a guide to meditation that seemed written just for her. Each time, I felt drawn to the perfect book without understanding why. Then I found Nana's journal hidden behind the register. The books remember, she had written. Every dream that was abandoned, every hope that was set aside, every story someone wished they could tell. They find their way here. My job is to match them with the people who need to remember their own dreams. I thought she was being poetic until the day I met Marcus. He was about my age, wearing a rumpled business suit and looking exhausted. He barely glanced around as he entered. "I'm just killing time," he said, waiting for a job interview across the street. Something pulled me toward the poetry section. I found a notebook bound in soft leather, its pages filled with handwritten poems about hope and second chances. The handwriting was elegant, but somehow familiar. "Someone left this," I said, offering it to him. Marcus opened it and went very still. These are exactly the kinds of poems I used to write in college, before I gave up on writing." "Maybe you shouldn't have given up." He looked at me with tears in his eyes. "I haven't written a word in 5 years. I convinced myself it was childish, impractical." "What changed your mind?" "Reading these poems, it's like someone understood exactly how I felt about abandoning my dreams. Look at this one." He read aloud. "The heart remembers what the mind forgets. That dreams deferred are not dreams denied. They wait in quiet corners, patient as books upon a shelf, ready to be opened when courage returns." Marcus never made it to that job interview. Instead, he spent the afternoon in my shop, reading and talking about the stories he wanted to tell. He bought the notebook and promised to fill it with his own words. That's when I understood what Nana meant. The books weren't just books. They were repositories of abandoned dreams, waiting for the right moment to inspire someone new. Mrs. Chen discovered this when she found a book about starting over after retirement. She'd been a secretary for 40 years, but the book was filled with stories about older women becoming entrepreneurs. Within a month, she'd opened a small restaurant serving her grandmother's recipes. 8-year-old Jamie found a picture book about a boy who was different from his classmates, but learned his differences were gifts. Jamie had been struggling with dyslexia, but the book helped him see that his creative way of thinking was something special, not something wrong. Sarah, a new mother, overwhelmed by the challenges of parenthood, discovered a journal filled with gentle wisdom about raising children. The mysterious author seemed to understand exactly her fears and doubts, offering comfort and practical advice that felt like a warm hug. The more I watched these transformations, the more I realized the shop was healing people, not just through the right books, but through the act of rediscovering hope itself. One day, a little girl named Lucy came in with her grandfather. She was maybe 6 years old, with pigtails and a serious expression. "My grandpa says books can take you anywhere," she announced, "but I can't read very well yet." I knelt down to her level. "What kind of adventures do you like?" "I want to fly with dragons and meet fairy queens and find treasure." Without hesitation, I walked to a shelf I'd never explored before. Behind some old atlases, I found a beautifully illustrated children's book called Lucy and the Dreamweaver. The little girl's eyes went wide. "That's my name! How did you find a book about me?" Her grandfather looked puzzled, but I was beginning to understand. The shop didn't just contain abandoned dreams, it created new ones. It saw what people needed and provided exactly that. Lucy spent an hour looking at the pictures, making up her own version of the story. By the time they left, she was determined to learn to read so she could discover what adventures the book really contained. The most remarkable visit came from an elderly woman named Rose, the same name as my grandmother. She walked with a cane and moved slowly, but her eyes were bright with curiosity. "I used to know the woman who owned this place," she said. "Rose Morrison. We were friends many years ago." My heart stopped. Morrison had been my grandmother's maiden name. Rose Morrison was my grandmother. The woman smiled. "I thought you might be Clara. She talked about you constantly. Said you had the gift, but didn't know it yet." "What gift?" "The ability to see what people need, even when they don't know it themselves. Rose had it too. She called it dream matching." Rose explained that my grandmother had always been able to sense the stories people carried inside them. The dreams they'd forgotten, the hopes they'd pushed aside, the talents they'd convinced themselves they didn't have. "But how do the right books appear at the right time?" I asked. "Love," Rose said simply. "Your grandmother loved stories so much that stories began to love her back. The universe started sending her the books that needed to find their readers. Now it's happening to you." She was right. Over the months that followed, I stopped questioning the magic and started trusting it. When someone walked into the shop, I would feel a gentle pull toward exactly what they needed. Sometimes it was a practical guide, sometimes a work of fiction, sometimes a journal or notebook waiting to be filled. A young father found a book about single parenting that helped him navigate life after divorce. A high school student discovered a graphic novel that inspired her to pursue art school. An immigrant family found English language books that made learning feel like play rather than work. But the most beautiful moments were when people found books that reminded them of dreams they'd set aside. The accountant who rediscovered her love of photography, the retired teacher who started writing the children's books she'd always imagined, the shy teenager who found the courage to audition for the school play. Each time someone left the shop with renewed hope or rediscovered passion, I felt my grandmother's presence. She was still here, still matching dreams with dreamers, working through the books and through me. I no longer planned to sell the shop. How could I? It had become a place where magic happened daily. Not the flashy kind from movies, but the quiet, profound magic of human potential being awakened. One evening, as I was closing up, I found a new book on the counter. I hadn't put it there, and no customers had been in for the last hour. It was titled The Dream Keeper's Daughter, and on the first page, in my grandmother's handwriting, was an inscription. For Clara, who inherited more than just a bookshop. Keep matching dreams, sweetheart. The world needs more magic, and you're exactly the right person to provide it. I smiled and placed the book on the shelf marked New Arrivals. Tomorrow, someone would need exactly this story, and somehow I would know exactly who that person was. Outside, snow began to fall softly on Maple Street, and the warm light from my shop windows made the evening feel like something from a fairy tale, which I suppose it was. Every day now, I wake up excited to see what dreams will walk through my door and which books will choose their new homes. Because that's what I've learned. Books don't just tell stories. Sometimes they help write them too. And in a little shop on Maple Street, where magic hides between the pages and dreams wait patiently on every shelf, anything is possible.